Hello everybody, we're at the exclusive Centre Interallié Club in central Paris with a man whose election thrilled many European capitals. Nicușor Dan won the runoff against a populist nationalist candidate in May to become the president of Romania. He's pledged to draw a line under the political crisis in the country. The previous election was annulled, of course, and to tackle Romania's economic and social woes. He presides over a fragile four-party coalition, which has had no confidence votes brought against it. Nicușor Dan is a former mayor of the capital, Bucharest, and as a mathematician, he completed his postgraduate studies here in Paris. President Dan, welcome to Talking Europe.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about the new US national security strategy. It makes it clear that the Transatlantic alliance is, as we know it, is basically over. And I'm wondering in that context what you make of the US decision to withdraw some troops from Romania. How does this feel from NATO's eastern flank?
No, first of all, I think United States and Europe have a lot of common interest, and the transatlantic relation will continue. Regarding the troops, there was some circular troops, so not stabilized in Romania. It was just a technical decision. It's not something to worry about. We still have around 1,000 American soldiers, especially in three very precise bases in Romania, so it's just a technical.
Are you sure it's not a political decision when you look at the national security strategy, though, which clearly wants to diminish the relationship between the US and Europe?
Yes, but not now. In the future, it's a progressive thing.
So, in terms of your preparation for being more independent in the security sense, obviously you have this issue of drone incursions, and there was one in late November which was described as the deepest ever penetration of drones. Your defense ministry said they were presumed to be Russian drones. Deepest ever penetration into Romanian airspace. I think one of these drones overflew Moldova. So is that kind of the weak point in your defenses at the moment?
Well, so we had a few drones. So in 3.5 years, we had around 40 pieces of drones that took down on the Romanian air, very close to the border. And we had 3, 4, 5 that came in the air. And the one you said, it was the first and the single that came through Moldova. All the other were very close to the Ukrainian part near the Black Sea. And of course, for that question of drones, it's new, and you do not have the means everywhere on the space. On the other hand, it was just an accident, like all the others. So we did not see as a really threat.
You are the second largest beneficiary after Poland of the European Commission's SAFE program, the defense loan instrument. In fact, you've been allocated 16.68 billion euros under that program. Just tell me a little bit about how you're going to use these loans. I imagine some of it is going to be for this so-called drone wall that the European Commission wants to develop.
Yes, yes. So first we have I think like many other countries in Europe, the military equipment was part of other policies, yes. Before the Ukrainian war, it was business as usual. And so we have a plan until 2040, an equipment plan, and SAFE, that 16 billion euro will be part of this plan. And of course, so we submit the application for SAFE the last 2 weeks, end of November, and there will be it's a response for some shortages we have. And on the drone part, we have already a cooperation with Ukraine. Of course, they have the experience of the war, and part of that 16 billion will be for having a good response to the drones.
You're still interested in American equipment and weapon systems, but you're here in France at the moment. So what kind of mix do you want to have in the future between buy American and buy European?
So as you know, the contract for the military equipment is a long-term contract. For instance, for the Americans' weapons, we signed contract 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they will last, I don't know, 2032, 2034. But now, as the other European countries will, and as the safe is tailed, we will concentrate on the European equipment, and we try to improve our defense industry where we have. So I have to say, I think it's important that Romania has a tradition. So in the communist time, we had a big military industry. We exported everywhere, Middle East, South America, everywhere. We didn't have a good management for after '89, but we still have workers, places, good conditions, and we hope to attract and will attract investors from the European side in order to produce in Romania.
Including from the French, of course. A question related to Ukraine, a big question now in the next couple of weeks will be whether the profits on the frozen Russian assets will be unblocked and used to help Ukraine in a loan. Are you and your government in favor of using these frozen assets, or is it too dangerous to do that, as Belgium and some other EU member states believe?
What's sure, and we agreed, we had an informal European Council, and we agreed that in the meeting of December, we will solve that problem of financing Ukraine for the next 2 years. So Romania will support every way of doing that. Mm-hmm. So if will be frozen asset, we will support, we will guarantee. If will be other ways, we will contribute, because it's essential for the Romanian security also.
I want to ask you a bit about the domestic situation. The Populist Alliance for the Union of Romanians, which has this kind of Romania First policy in an echo of America First, they are still pretty high in the opinion polls. The poll of polls that I've seen shows them on about 40% of support, way ahead of any other party. So it seems that whole Romania First agenda is very much thriving. And of course, a hard-right candidate just came second in the mayoral election for Bucharest.
With 21%.
Yeah, but still, it's not a far-right stronghold, normally.
I think it's important to say that. So we had classical parties, and we do not have much trust of the people on the classical parties and classical policies. It's for that reason that we have 40% of Romanian people that are saying we need anything completely else. But it doesn't mean that 40% of the Romanian population are pro-Russian or anti-European. It's just a question of confidence between that people and the Romanian state and the Romanian administration. And here we have to work.
Well, a lot of people, of course, are fed up because of the tough decisions that your government has had to make because of the difficult economic situation. You've been under an EU excessive deficit procedure since 2020. So in the light of that, you've made decisions like increasing VAT and freezing public sector wages. This is exactly the kind of thing that is going to boost your opponents and, in fact, probably has boosted the AUR already, hasn't it?
Speaking to the polls, they pass from 35 to 40. But I think, so the measures have been already taken. The deficit will be 8.4 this year, around 6.5 next year. And I think that people begin to understand that we had to do that in order to avoid other worse scenarios. And we will also be, so we made all the steps in order to be member of OECD. We'll see, but most probably will be member of OECD next year. And I think Romania will be stabilize itself.
Just one quick point, because we're running out of time, but you made a stark statement earlier this month. Romania is a corrupt country, you said, and Romanians are right to feel that there's a lack of commitment from the state in fighting corruption. Why is there a lack of commitment, do you think?
Because it was a phenomenon that involves many people, many administrations, many parts of the administration, and there was not enough public pressure on the phenomenon, but the public pressure was on the elections. So the parties must act on that direction, and I'm very convicted to act. And there must be administrative, legislative measure to be taken also in the judicial system in order to have shorter processes, and is a need for the society, and we will act on that direction.
We'll end it there. Thank you so much for being our guest on Talking Europe, President Nicușor Dan of Romania. Thanks for watching this episode here on Talking Europe.